This is a supplemental addition to the 7-part series on the Lahaina fires, where an opinion is stated as to either a cause, or at least an influencer of the beginning and/or progress of the fires. The previous introduction and 7-part presentation, concerning the fires that destroyed Lahaina, Maui, on August 8, 2023, was based upon a compilation of data gathered over a 10-month span. It did not include everything now available. It did, however, contain enough information so that we can establish a relative certainty. Some sort of technology was used during the development of these fires. Perhaps there was a combination employed throughout the event. There seems to be one that stands out from the rest and was captured by various means. The following is my opinion as to what part of that technology was utilized. 2 items you must understand is that directed energy technology exists, and as stated by the developers of such, can be delivered at the speed of light. Throughout the examination of available data, it was shown that the skies over Lahaina were quite active during late Monday, August 7th into the morning of Wednesday the 9th. This series of events may be me adding 2 and 2 and getting some number other than 4, but all the individual components seem to fit. The major events were linear clouds that approached the island on the 7th and 8th, which stopped at the northeast coast. There were also high winds that were present on that day. One video that was located showed the winds developing just before the fire broke loose. It is this video that in my examination puzzled me. I continually thought some of the debris that was being blown about was not leaves or grass, but items that were reflective in some way. It wasn't until I slowed down the video that 2 things happened. One was that the same or similar audio pattern as was detected with the horizontal fire object in part 2. The other was that stills captured showed small flat and rectangular pieces of debris that were shiny on one side and black on the other. Here is the audio. The only obvious item that appeared to be active during this period were the bullseye patterns being detected by Doppler radar over Lahaina. As stated before, this sequence is strikingly similar to one which appears on the Air Force Research Lab website. This lab is located right there on Maui. So what were the shiny rectangular items that were blowing around just before the fire started? Perhaps the following answers that question. An ash analysis, initiated by the county government, provides some interesting results. The analysis was accomplished by an independent lab in California. What the county announced to the world is that certain toxic compounds were found, one of which was arsenic. This, of course, gave cover for not allowing property owners back into the area to assess the damage to their property, or to recover any surviving mementos or valuables. What they did not share, however, was the fact that other, highly flammable materials were also found in the ash. Their levels were some 34 times the level of arsenic. What were those other materials? Aluminum and magnesium, both metals that will burn brightly, with aluminum turning into aluminum oxide. So, have we answered the question as to what the small rectangular pieces of material were? Were they small pieces of aluminum? What could have been their purpose? At some point in the research, the following image was found which caught my attention. Originally part of a trove of purported CIA documents that had been released, not too much credence was initially placed in the source. Then I noticed the patent number at the top. It did indeed exist, and explained a process of weather modification by the use of aluminum chaff and radio frequencies. The cross-section pattern immediately reminded me of the wind corridor over the mountains that had formed and remained there on the 8th. This event was verified by a GOES satellite on the same day. Secondly, the aircraft that was releasing the chaff in the diagram reminded me of the dots in the clouds just before the fires erupted. So far, we have an obviously artificial circular bullseye pattern over Lahaina that is mostly pulsating over time, high winds that are blowing what appear to be thin and reflective, rectangular metal shards that may have been dropped previously upslope by some aircraft, an audio signature of some process. An ash analysis that says there is at least 34 times the level of aluminum present compared to arsenic that is considered toxic, but the aluminum level is ignored. Maybe we were counting on the soil tech application, encapsulating all this inconvenient evidence. What mischief could these factors accomplish? According to the patent mentioned earlier, the chaff, or more specifically, the rectangular-shaped aluminum shards, are a radio frequency absorbing element. Their function is as they absorb, they convert radio frequencies to heat. One can choose a frequency between 2 GHz through 12 GHz, depending on the shape of the chaff. A shape can also be selected that will provide buoyancy to the material so that it is suspended in air. As an aside, the SBX-1 radar platform operates between 8 GHz and 12 GHz, thus providing a potential source of radio frequencies to affect this material. So based upon these facts, just how hot a temperature can this chaff be heated to? Aluminum chaff can be heated up to its melting point of 1220.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Beyond this temperature, the aluminum would start to melt and lose its particulate form. I'm wondering what effect it would have if many of these objects, heated to just below their melting points, would be suspended in the air, and then released to fall into dry grass, certain trees, or even roofs of houses. They would appear as embers being blown around in the sky. It is my contention that an electromagnetic field was constructed over Lahaina as indicated by the bullseye patterns that pulsated until they either dissipated or were switched off. Something affected the clouds over the mountains before the fire started, which was indicated by the dots on the surface. There were small rectangular pieces of reflective material blowing around and probably suspended within the electromagnetic field, and was the reason for the radar detecting something in the atmosphere that day. The presence of the field was indicated on 2 different occasions, in the audio of video captured just before the fires began, and again late into the night of the 8th. But it doesn't end there. The actual fires may have given us another verification. One of the GOES products, which captured the actual development of the fires, recorded a still image every few minutes. The individual images were assembled in sequence and then published. So by slowing the motion down, one can retrieve a single frame. This is a representative sample of many frames that comprise the sequence you just observed. Notice the perfectly spaced, parallel lines within the fire area. These lines are only visible within the confines of the actual fires, not only at Lahaina, but also at Kula. The lines do not appear anywhere else on the rest of the image. It is very possible that both the smoke and light are allowing us to observe magnetic lines of force. One of the first daylight occurrences of this effect may have been captured in late afternoon on the 8th as what appeared to be the sun provided a backlit view of some sort of pattern in the sky. The very next morning, on the 9th, this video captured from Canoe Beach shows the same phenomenon. Against a backdrop of smoke particles and morning light, electromagnetic field lines seem to be within the images. Again, noticed as the video was slowed down, individual frames verify the existence of a changing pattern. It is not an artifact of the video itself, or the still images, since if it were, other items in the image would show the same, or similar patterns over them. They do not. The technique of utilizing smoke to assist in making particles aligned with electromagnetic lines of force somewhat visible is an established tool of physicists. The only difference here is that the same phenomenon is being seen on a larger scale. It does, however, give us some pause in considering other so-called wildfires, such as the recent Tracy, California fire. If this is a valid observation, would similar results indicate a wider use of technology to initiate such disasters? What you just saw was a video clip captured by a Tesla, front-facing camera driving through the area during the fires at Tracy. It is obviously displaying some sort of electromagnetic interference. What was causing that interference? This is a crop of another Tesla video that captured an event just before avoiding a collision with another vehicle. Again, the sky appears to have a visible pattern associated with it, similar to the previous ones. Considering the fact that we are dealing with the digital capture of images, it is not now uncommon to either hear slight interruptions in the audio or observe distortions in the video that indicate electromagnetic interference. This exact situation was what initially caught my attention when first researching the event utilizing on-site video captured by residents or tourists that fateful day. So what is it that is creating in this case, these large, changing, i.e. pulsating and uniform electromagnetic fields. We have reached the end of this particular topic. Whether the preceding information is sufficient to prove my hypothesis or not is, as always, up for debate. You can agree or disagree as you wish. The facts, however, remain. There was something in the air, as reported by residents that day. There were highly artificial appearing, Doppler radar indicated patterns over Lahaina for a span of some 36 hours. There was an odd open corridor in the clouds over the mountains, verified by a GOES satellite, that channeled the winds directly at the major fire zone. There were odd disturbances in the cloud tops over the mountains. There were high winds verified by a video, which when the audio was examined at a slower speed indicated some sort of signal or pattern. There were many pieces of reflective materials blowing around in the winds, verified by still images. An ash analysis showed aluminum and magnesium, both highly flammable materials, at levels 35 times the level of arsenic. All these facts are easily verifiable and reproducible by anyone, with a little effort. 7 out of 9 points are solid observations, and even taken alone, indicate non-natural events. The 2 points remaining concern whether or not we can actually detect smoke particle alignment in electromagnetic lines of force. If you agree with that premise, then all 9 points are satisfied. We, therefore, have an electromagnetic field that was over Lahaina during the fires that day, which contributed in some way to the destruction of that paradise.